Mtakapopata fursa ya kusoma hii ripoti, tungetaka muangalie vizuri na tujaribu kuunganisha wananchi wa Kenya, kwa sababu haya mambo 9 yote zikifuatwa vile wananchi wanavyosema, sina shaka ya kwamba Kenya itakuwa nchi yenye sura mpya.
Waswahili husema ati hayawi huwa. So now this report will be unveiled tomorrow. But you said that this is not the end. It's a beginning. Because these are proposals which have come out of deliberations with some Kenyans, not all Kenyans. From here now, we are going to then begin a national debate of the new Kenya. And some people are going to be free to make recommendations. I have to correct some of these recommendations which have been made. And out of this, a solution will be found which is homegrown. And that will give birth to the Kenya that we all want and desire.
Your Excellency, because this is a very pregnant moment, from tomorrow going into the future, we will all be focused on having a honest, democratic, inclusive, informed debate and conversation where no views are superior or inferior, where there is no greater or lesser, where all of us as Kenyans from all shades can have a conversation that informs our future.
Let us all now have an inclusive, informed debate where there is no greater or lesser voice in the conversation surrounding the BBI report. So the Building Bridges Initiative report is finally in the hands of President Uhuru Kenyatta. The President received the document from the task force team today in the presence of ODM leader Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto. The details of the report are out, though President Uhuru Kenyatta will tomorrow present the report to Kenyans at the Bomas of Kenya, Nairobi. Kenyans are expected to read it and give their views after the March 2018 rapprochement between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, better known as the handshake. The President and ODM leader Raila Odinga announced their plan to bury the rivalry through the formation of Building Bridges Initiative. Clearly, opinion has been divided on the report and its recommendations even before it becomes public. Question is it the silver bullet that will address the ails bedeviling Kenya? Is this the final solution that Kenyans have been looking for? These are conversations we are having this evening, even as we wait for that report to be made public tomorrow by President Uhuru Kenyatta. And this we're bringing our lead reporter, Sophia Wanuna, who's speaking to Raphael Tuju, who's the Jubilee Secretary General. Sophia, good evening. There's been lots of speculation on this particular report. I'd like to hear the sentiments of Raphael Tuju as well.
Good evening, Linda. So the BBI report, much awaited, has finally been handed over to President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. The BBI team meeting the President, the Deputy President, the former Prime Minister, and other state officials that had been invited in State House. However, in terms of it becoming public document and information, that I understand will be happening tomorrow in a function that is been organized to take place at the Bomas of Kenya. However, already intimations around just what could be contained. Remember, conversation on this BBI task force and the recommendations and the expectations. There has been a lot of speculation. Even that continues up to this point. But let's talk a little bit more about just what we know so far. I have with me the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, Raphael Tuju. Thank you for making time for the big story tonight. Perhaps let's begin with what transpired today in State House. A very closely guarded ceremony. Would have expected it would be open to the journalists, the handover, at least a summary of what the findings have been. Why all of this close, tight to the chest kind of situation?
I think it was a very significant event, and I'm sure you're going to get the pictures. The function at State House actually brought in many other stakeholders. We had the church representation there. We had civil society, and we also had some other political leaders. I think Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka was there, Honorable Gideon Moi was there, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, and Honorable Honorable Wetangula was there, and a few other notable political players. It was a process of increasing and widening the shades of political opinion who are in this country to ensure that they are part and parcel of this process. Yeah. I think I'd like to say right from the outset that this is a first one in the whole of Africa. I was meeting with ANC leaders recently, and they gave a lot of praise to Kenya because this is a situation in which, in an African country, the leader of opposition and the president of the country, despite a very divisive political campaign and 2-3 elections which have been marked with a lot of acrimony, decided to come together to unite the country. There is no precedent in Africa that this has happened, and at least not with not without external help. So this is a situation in which Kenyans themselves are trying to come up with a homegrown solution to the challenges that we face in the political arena.
Right. And of course, there's an appreciation of the lead up to this report. It was 17 months of work from the team, 1 month to wait for the handover. But already the political lines being drawn to the extent of support or do not support, even when people did not know what they were supporting. So what do you speak to the suspicion that was drawn out from this? The Deputy President, in fact, on record saying Atuta Pelekwa na tsunami, as had been pronounced by the former Prime Minister, so that already it would appear, even as all this was going on, behind the scenes there were things known by the political class that they were fighting in public about. Well,
let me first of all tell you a little bit about the atmosphere which prevailed today. Yeah. We had real statesmen talking. The Deputy President came out in support of this process. We must respect different opinions. We must respect the fact that this is a debate, and we should do it in a civil manner, as the President himself pronounced himself on that. The Prime Minister Raila Odinga talked extremely well. It was a very, very cordial and respectful environment. In fact, there was so much unanimity that, we have a problem which we have to fix. We can't have this situation of boom, bust every 5 years. We only work for 2 years. 1 year we recover from the last election, and then 2 years we start the campaign for the next elections. And it's very bad for the economy. Investors cannot rely on political stability over a long period of time. This is affecting foreign direct investment and even investment from within the country. It is affecting, bank rates of interest because of these political uncertainties. In that way, it is affecting job availability for our young people. So we must fix our politics.
Yeah, and I think fixing the politics and the situation is not in question, and even the environment and kind of good support witnessed, as you said, in State House today may not be in dispute. It is now what will play out after, in as far as conversation on these recommendations. And some of the reporting we are seeing since this report was released is that that perhaps the Kenya will see a recommendation around the direction of president who appoints then a prime minister, and the official opposition is returned to the National Assembly or to Parliament, if you like, CSs from outside the National Assembly, or not just technocrats, but having both. A lot of, again, still speculation because we don't have that hard copy report. But what you as Secretary General do believe, because I believe even you had a position, is your position around the executive?
First of all, one of the things that was very clear during this meeting is that let us debate. In fact, there was an appeal to the media that this country belongs to all of us. We often, as media practitioners, if I put myself in that position, need something sensational in order to be able to sell the news or sell the newspapers. But there's an appeal that even media houses should not be party to tearing this country apart. So let us go into this with a lot of decorum. Let us appreciate we have a problem, and this problem can only be solved by us. Kudos to this country. I mean, there are neighboring countries, and African countries for that matter, that are not able to talk the way we're able to talk. In fact, when we've had different opinions expressed by even people who are in Jubilee, that is healthy for us. It is a reflection of maturity. And we should be sensitive to all shades of opinion. We should understand where people are coming from. One of the biggest worries in this country, which I know maybe it is reflected in the BBI report, is the fear of exclusion. Even those who are in government today, they fear being marginalized should they lose in the game. They fear exclusion. Every community in this country, in fact, when you're talking about ethnicity in this country, in the political process, the biggest elephant in the house is the fear of being excluded if you don't get into government.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to manage those things.
Right. So there's a question after this now, what? Because, again, of some of the sentiments in the political landscape, a referendum we will not support. Does this automatically mean Kenya is going to a referendum? What are the likely scenarios we'll see after now these recommendations are out? Again,
it is up to Kenyans to decide. There are certain things which can be resolved without going for a referendum. There may be certain things which may be resolved if it is necessary to have a referendum. But let us have the report, because this is a report of what Kenyans said. And then they can be distilled, and solutions are found as to how best to do it in a cost-effective manner. So, we should not jump the gun by making conclusions that we'll be going for a referendum or will not be going for a referendum. Yeah. So really, let us receive the report, acknowledge that we have a problem. I think it is a very bold step that the two leaders, Prime Minister Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta, have appreciated that there is a problem in the political arena and that we need to come together as a country to resolve it for the sake of our generation and future generations.
Yeah, you talk about these are opinions from Kenyans. There are those who feel, because we understand from the team, they went around the 47 counties but spoke to 7,000 people, a country of 47 million. So that, yes, as much as, of course, we're not going to speak to every single individual, but to those who say we were not heard, we have recommendations too, we have a voice that would have wanted to be included in this. What do you tell those people?
Well, first of all, people are invited to either give a memoranda or go and present their views orally. There are times when they went to certain locations and people did not turn up. So you can't blame them for not interviewing more than 7,000 people. But also scientifically, if you look at things like opinion polls, usually the sample size is much, much smaller, even just in the hundreds, and somehow you're able to analyze this, and it does have some amount of accuracy when you take a statistically significant number of people, and 7,000 is not a bad number for collecting people's opinions. After this, of course, the debate is going to continue. At least we have a document of reference. It is not the ultimate document. It cannot be right in all ways, but we have a starting point. Yeah,
and there are those who felt we needed not even have that starting point because we already have a constitution that gives guidelines in as far as fixing all of the issues in the 9-point agenda, whether it's cohesion, whether it's inclusivity, that all of that already was there, that this is trying to find something else outside of what we could have worked with what we have.
Well, we have a new constitution, 2010 constitution, but it did not stop the polarization in the political arena that we faced in 2013 and 2017. We had very difficult moments in 2017 when we had repeat elections. We had parallel swearing in, very, very polarizing things that could throw this country into chaos. So it's one thing to have the Constitution, but we have to appreciate that the Constitution itself is not a perfect document. So there's always room to improve on the constitution that we passed in 2010.
And finally, again, to the point I made earlier, that even before the report was released, there already were positions taken to support or against. And in a party which you had as Secretary General, of course, the party leader is there, but we've seen the Tanga and Keleweke all within Jubilee. Do you fear, as some do, that this now going forward, we will know the issues, they'll be discussed, maybe the straw that breaks the camel's back to the extent of what Jubilee is as is today, that the Deputy President, I beg your pardon, may take that position and becomes an all-out tour, and that Jubilee will be mutilated?
I don't think so. Why I don't think so is because anybody who thinks that we don't have a problem to fix in this country as far as our politics is concerned is not living in Kenya. One of the things that has featured in our politics in the past is different permutations of ethnic alliances, which are very fickle. And some of the challenges that we are facing in our political process is because of those fickle political alliances. It means we have to kind of reset the press button, the reset button, and come up with a template in our politics that will ensure inclusion of all Kenyans. Listening to the Deputy President this afternoon and listening to the President this afternoon, I think we are reading from the same page. There may be some, differences in opinion, which is extremely, extremely, extremely healthy. But we must understand where people are coming from. There are certain assumptions that people make in politics. There are certain ways that our politics has been played for the last 55 years. And this BBI, to that extent, it is disruptive of the status quo. And change can have some painful aspects. But I think as a country, we must address this problem. And I think there's some amount of consensus.
So building bridges might not be the breaking bridges. It had started to show those cracks.
Maybe if you look at it superficially, but let me tell you, who wants to be a leader in this country when it is broken into half? I mean, this president was elected by 53% of the Kenyan population, but 46% voted against him. Now, in Europe, probably, in the US, where the democracies are mature, probably that can hold. But in a country which is in its embryonic stages, we must have some homegrown solutions to be able to accommodate all of us. And that is disruptive. That is not how we've played politics in the last 55 years. So it may be painful in some respects, but I can see the spirit is all there, that we include everyone, whether they're in government now or they're out of government. We must address this enduring fear of exclusion.
Thank you very much. Secretary General Raphael Tuju with us. Confident that this will work out to the extent that all Kenyans will have an opportunity after this report is officially out tomorrow to scrutinize, to read, to debate, and thereafter to see where it will all lead to, but that it will not be breaking of that very delicate bridge, if you like, that Kenya has seen, especially around the electioneering years, the undercurrents around that time, the political positions that are taken. Those are what threaten to break the fabric. But he's confident that we will be able to have, as a country, a conversation that will see us head in the right direction, Linda.
His 9-point agenda touted as the solution towards bedeviling Kenya. They're looking at how to end ethnic division, inclusivity, how to solve polarizing election, safety and security as well. They looked at how to deal with corruption, how to deal with the lack of national ethos, responsibility and rights of Kenyans, so to speak, shared responsibility and enhancing devolution. Devolution has been key. But then there's lots of reaction as well on this particular report, even though it will be made public tomorrow at the Bomas of Kenya by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Edwin Kisiagani says a constitutional amendment which creates a bed for the executive in parliament is an affront to the principle of separation of powers and the doctrine of checks and balances. My initial reaction to the BBI report is that it is problematic and confusing. at Ole says BBI wants allocation to counties increased. Remember a few months ago when the executive completely refused to allocate counties what they deserved? BBI is the solution. Didmas Baraza, who's the Member of Parliament Kimileli, says now the BBI task force has avoided the divisive referendum and reckons that the issues raised can be prosecuted through the parliamentary process. I wish to declare my support for this particular report. Eden Duale, who's the leader of a majority in the National Assembly, says, from the first impression of the BBI report, I have faith that we can sort all of the items proposed therein through constitutional amendments by way of parliamentary initiative as contemplated under Article 256. Let me see if I can get one final one. Oh, yeah, so Eden Duale goes ahead and just says, even though most of us who generally desire a parliamentary system have not achieved it through the BBI, I have strong faith that we can achieve all the proposals contained in the BBI report without a referendum, which will definitely be divisive with winners and losers. But what really is in this report? What are the issues being raised in this particular report? Let's listen to this story that has been done by our Murimi Mwangi.
These images from State House late Tuesday evening may have ended the close to 2 years' wait for the now famous Building Bridges Initiative report. But this document, to be officially unveiled on Wednesday, could as well have just set stage for a major shakeup of the country's political landscape heading to the 2022 polls. First is the recommended return of the post of Prime Minister. The PM is to be appointed by the President on the first summoning of Parliament, this being a person serving as an elected member of the National Assembly from the political party with majority members in the National Assembly, or the person who appears to have the support of a majority of the MPs, if no political party has a majority. The PM has to be confirmed by a resolution of the National Assembly, supported by an absolute majority of MPs. The PM shall chair the cabinet, wield the supervision and execution mandate of the day-to-day affairs of government, and shall also be the official leader of government business in Parliament. The PM may, however, be dismissed by the President or through a vote of no confidence in the National Assembly. But the watchdog mandate of Parliament on the executive could have also gotten a major boost, following a recommendation from the report for return of the post of Leader of Official Opposition. According to the BBI team, this person should be a candidate who emerges second in the presidential race and shall also sit in Parliament as an ex-official member. His or her party, however, must not be a member of the coalition forming government and will be allowed to form a shadow cabinet, which will take a key role in question time when the PM appears in Parliament. A suggestion replicated in county leadership, where the runners-up in the governorship contest also becomes an ex-official member of the county assembly and the leader of the official opposition in the House. Under the current dispensation, National Assembly Majority Leader Eden Duale would be the ideal Prime Minister, with ODM leader Raila Odinga as the official leader of opposition. These suggestions now giving closure to the prolonged political debate leading to release of the report, which now heads to intense public debate with the likelihood of being converted into a bill to be introduced in Parliament for debate. As framed by the task force, the recommended leadership changes, analysts argue,
fanfare is being played.
Do not need a referendum to pass, as they do not touch on any of the issues listed on Article 255, subsection 1 of the 2010 Constitution, under which constitutional changes would have to be subjected to a popular vote. For instance, the presidential tenure remains a maximum of 2 5-year terms, retaining the constitutional powers of office as the head of state and government. The recommendations also do not touch on the supremacy of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, independence of the judiciary, and powers of Parliament. A parliamentary amendment, should the report be redrafted into a bill, might thus be enough to pass the recommendations after robust public participation expected after the Wednesday launch. There certainly has never been scarcity of curative reports to Kenya's toxic power struggles. But with the Kenyatta succession politics already at a fever pitch, yet another round of uncertainty dogs the nation as release of the BBI
Okay. Burimi Mwangi, just breaking down some of the issues that have been captured in that report, BBI report, that will be publicly unveiled by President Uhuru Kenyatta tomorrow at the Bomas of Kenya. And there's an analysis that was given, and someone was saying, is this really the silver bullet that Kenya needs to address the issues that it faces right now? I'd like to speak to Professor James Ole Kiapi, who's a former presidential candidate. He's speaking to us on phone, sir. And thank you for joining us and for speaking to us on the big story this evening. There's lots of speculation on this particular report from either side. Those who support the report, those who do not. Those who support it say those who don't support should not oppose something they've not read. Those who oppose it say you should not ask us to support something that even you have not seen. So there's lots of conversation around this. And I know you tweeted a couple of days ago and you said, one, don't be afraid of the BBI report, be afraid of you. What will you do? Do you support the report or not? That is the question. As for me, I shall read first and embrace it better than what we have, or otherwise point out the caveats. You also said politicians have two options on BBI. They can carry the people along and build consensus on the way forward, driven by patriotic intent, or we fight it out at a referendum. Spinning it to suit a certain political direction will not work. Let us read, stop pretense, and take sides. And that is why I'd like to pick your mind as a neutral mind in this entire conversation on the BBI report that will be released tomorrow. But before I do that, allow me to take my first break here on The Big Story. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with Professor James Ole Kiapi.